on, everybody? Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Black Student Success Podcast that's brought to you by Inquire Higher. And this is basically a podcast where we bring you insight and guidance from successful Black professionals, into what they do and basically how they got there, just to really give you some insight on some of the things that they do, especially in case if you're looking to get into that type of career or that type of work. For today, today's guest, we want to talk about the area of social work and therapy. So, right now, just like with anybody else, 2020 has been super challenging for just about everybody. We're in the midst of a pandemic, and on top of that, there's just been a lot of events that just have been stacked on top of that have really gotten us down. So, especially taking this moment to really give those essential workers, their praise for all the work that they've done in the midst of this, putting their health at risk to make sure that we're doing okay. I also want to talk about the folks who really help us get, really cope through these types of times, not only mentally, but just making sure that they have the resources, to really get through those difficult circumstances. All right. So we have our guest who, again, fits the mold of, being a super great professional within the work of therapy, as well as one of the members of our fraternity. He has a master's in social work. He has received several awards within the field, such as the Unsung Social Work, as well as the Social Work Appreciation of Greatness Awards. He is a proud member of Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated and has several positions on the chapter and regional as well as the national level. He is our national coordinator and the founder of one of our initiatives, Much More Than a Hashtag, which really highlights civil engagement and uplifting and educating the community. So I'm proud to bring on our guest, Johnnie Geathers. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. And one thing I wanted to actually just even ask you personally, just with you, being the founder of the Much More Than a Hashtag initiative and, thinking back to when this is really just kind of a brainchild that you have, and it has expanded, over the last about 4 or 5 years to what it has gotten really big. How does that feel?
It feels great. And to be honest, I was brought into the aspect of Much More Than a Hashtag. So I'm actually a co-founder of it.
Okay.
To be honest, it all started through brother Kevin White. Rest in peace to him. Mm-hmm. He reached out to me and told me to connect with John Branch Jr., who is a brother in Houston. And once I reached out to him, he was able to connect me with different leaders within Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated. And us as a group, we came together, had meetings, did emails, drafting about what Much More Than a Hashtag was going to be about. And before Much More Than a Hashtag became a national initiative, we pushed it out to 6 targeted cities. Mm-hmm. So Pittsburgh was one of the cities that was a targeted city that we had wanted to see how well it was going to go before it became an actual national initiative. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, that's no problem. I was like, that's going to be easy for us because we do a lot of community service work here in Pittsburgh already. So once we saw that we was able to knock out the 5 pillars that quick, then other targeted cities, they started to pick up and do events and stuff under the initiative. And once we saw the success within the targeted cities, that's when it was like, okay, we got to make this a national initiative. And then that's when it got approved in 2016. And since then, it's been growing. And with Much More Than a Hashtag, the big things that came out of it are the partnership that we have with National Voter Registration Day, which is an organization where they host National Voter Registration Day events on the 4th September of every year. So this year will be our third year that we participating in that. This year, despite of COVID-19 happening, this is our first time that we partnered with Rock the Vote, so chapters can be able to host online voter registration events and such, so they won't, have to deal with, the safety of it. They could just say, okay, you can host an online event. And the thing is, with this pandemic, it kind of gave both organizations' creativity, because lately chapters been hosting events through Zoom, through Instagram Live, through Facebook Live, and people still turn out to it. Like there's was an event that I actually popped up on and checked on. It was a chapter in Chicago, Civic Amarillo chapter and Iota chapter in Chicago. They had a Facebook Live event, and it had over 1,000 views. And that's how it's been lately with most of the events that chapter's been hosting. People still want the information despite of the pandemic, despite of what we have to deal with. People still want information because people still want their voices to be heard, and they still want to take action.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Right now, as we speak, there's two chapters in Virginia. They have an online voter registration event, and this is their second phase that they're hosting an event. Then a lot of chapters are having events on Tuesday because it's National Voter Registration Day, and then events going into October, and then there's more stuff that's happening as well. I'm proud. Be honest, I'm real proud about it.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely should be, especially how it's expanded. And then, like you said, just with all the creativity, just with us kind of being, cooped up at home, and, to think about it, you have all this access online and you're doing all these events through Zoom, which in some cases actually makes it a little bit easier for them to actually access the information and be able to attend those events. Mm-hmm. So it's really good to see, that really still thrive, especially within these difficult times. So yeah, I mean, thank you for all the work that you've done just from the beginning, and that you're continuing to do the work. So we really appreciate you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So let's kind of get into what you do within your field. So you're a mental health therapist, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so go ahead.
All right, okay. So I am a mental health therapist. Overall, I've been in the social work and mental health field for 7 years now. Mm-hmm. I've received my bachelor's. I'm gonna go to the beginning part. So I received my bachelor's in human development and family studies from Penn State. Originally, during my undergrad career, I was really looking into therapy or social work at all. My main thing when I went to my undergrad and get my bachelor's, I was mainly focused on wanting to be a doctor. I had wanted to be a pediatrician because I always wanted to help children. Mm-hmm. Then when I got to like my senior year, that's when I got into the gist about social work and how the different aspects of social work come into play within my major. And that kind of led me to the interest of saying, okay, I should go to grad school for social work and such. And then when I did my research on social work and how social work is so broad and you could do so much within social work, that's when I started researching schools that had social work programs. And during that time, my senior year, when I made that decision, it was between Pitt and Columbia University in New York. So the decision for me to go to Pitt was due to the fact that I had already had a niche of Pittsburgh because I did a lot of visits during my undergrad. Then also, I already knew the brothers here. Mm-hmm. Also, one of the brothers that actually got his MSW from Pitt gave me reference to say, I think you should go to this program. So once I got accepted into, Pitt through the School of Social Work, I was like, all right, I'm going to do it. And since then, I enjoyed it. And what made me got into actually therapy was the experience that I had within my graduate tenure. So during grad school, I was doing 2 field placements. So during those 2 field placements, it gave me like the experience of actually doing therapy. And with that experience with doing therapy, it kind of led me to the point of what my population I want to work with. Mm-hmm. So my first year of grad school, I worked with teenagers for the first time. My second year of grad school, I actually worked with adults for the first time. Adults that actually was dealing with dual diagnosis. So they was dealing with a mental health disorder, but also dealing with substance abuse and drug addiction and stuff like that. So I was able to get the rims of all that. But then after having that experience and having that knowledge, it returned me back to what I love the most, which is helping children. Because I grew up with that experience of helping children. Because growing up in Philadelphia, I did summer camp programs, mentoring programs that was dealing with children. And I fell back to like my first love. And since then, been working with children with them the last 7 years since I had my MSW, and with my current position right now with Family Links, I'm a mental health therapist in the therapeutic classroom program. So I mainly work with kids that I'm assigned to in a specific school that has a therapeutic classroom, and I do individual and group therapy with those kids.
Okay. All right. And yeah, I mean, it sounds like a pretty interesting path, especially with you kind of having that mindset, and it was still working with kids at the time, with, trying to be a pediatrician. And it took that transition, once you actually started getting involved with that type of work. So I want to take a step back and actually just really look at, what a therapist does, just to really explain to the people, since you're, really into that work, so what kinds of things does a therapist do?
A therapist is a resource. A therapist is a person that just guides the client to what their goals are and what their needs are. We're not like professionals that demands the client to say, we want you to do this at a specific time. That's not the case. The client is the actual person that actually runs the session and runs the show. So we're just a person that supports them. So if they need clothing, we say, okay, what specific places that you think you could go to get clothes? If they need help on getting those clothes, we be a resource to them and say, okay, we could connect you to these specific places to get the clothes. If they need food, we connect them to certain places that need food. If they just need a listening ear, we'll just be right there with them and just be a listening ear for them to be able to express themselves and to be able to just let their emotions and feelings out. So we're just a support. We are support, and we are a resource. And also, in terms of with therapists, therapy is broad, so it depends on what your population that you want to work with, and then also what specific interventions that you are competent with to be able to provide to the client that you want to serve.
Okay. Yeah. And I think you pointed out right at the beginning of that, one of the misconceptions is that it's someone who's, giving you advice and telling you steps of things to do, but you're really just creating this space, this environment for them to be able to express those concerns.
Right.
And like you said, be a guide to whatever it is that they're looking to achieve or overcome. So, what type of qualities would a certain person have to be a good therapist? What makes a good therapist successful?
All right. So what makes a good therapist? The first thing is being open. So when I talk about being open, you gotta be able to be open to have that relationship with the client. So you gotta be able to build rapport. A client will not get anywhere with you in a session as long as you are able to build a relationship with them, being open, being sincere, being honest. Another thing is being able to be empathetic. So if a client comes to you and say that they feel it a certain kind of way, you could say, I understand how you're feeling because I went through the same feeling before, and this is how you can manage it. Another thing is being positive. So whenever a client is going through a certain situation, or if they kind of feel like they failed on one of their goals, you still got to be able to be positive with them. Because if you shun them down, then they're not going to be able to say, all right, I don't want to meet with you no more, or I'm not going to come back and get treatment no more because you shunned me because I made one little mistake. If they made a mistake, we still got to be acceptive and still be positive and say, okay, you made your mistake, but you still going to push forward and meet your goals and get the progress that you're getting in this treatment. Another thing is being genuine. So with being genuine is mainly being honest and being receptive to the client. So if you don't, basically not having fake behavior, not having a fake attitude and such, because clients can read off body language too. So if they see that you're genuine, that leads them to be able to be more open and being able to explain what they need in services, and being able to say, okay, my therapist understands me, my therapist gets me, my therapist is receptive to what I need and it's helping me out. I'm gonna keep coming. Because I need the services, I need my needs met, and I'm gonna, continue on. So those are the things that make a good therapist.
Okay. So yeah, so it's really centered around the theme of, wanting to help somebody and
Right.
really wanted to, be a people person in that sense. I know there's different careers where you are helping people, but this is really a very close contact. And like you said, I think empathy is one of the biggest things
Yeah.
because, whatever that is they're going through, whether you have experienced it or not, you're putting yourself in that position to, like you said, be their support. So, so I appreciate you explaining just kind of those different qualities. Now, you talked about how therapy is pretty broad in the sense of that there's a lot of different things that you can do. There's a lot of populations that you can serve. And in particular, I want to get into the program that you got into, because it is a master's of social work, and maybe many people don't think that you can get into therapy with that type of degree. So can you talk about just, what that program did for you? If you didn't go into the route of therapy, what other things could you do with that master's of social work?
So when I started the program with Pitt, with masters with the MSW program, once I joined, they had us decide what concentration that we want to focus on. So within Pitt, there was two kinds of concentration. There was direct practice, and there was community organizing and service administration. So with me, I decided to do direct practice because I wanted to be more of a people person, more a face-to-face direct person,
Mm-hmm.
and that's to the point of therapy. What I could say is that even though I took that concentration role within my MSW program, I still feel as though I'm still doing the other aspect of community organizing and stuff because look like what I'm doing in my fraternity right now and within the chapters and within the programs, I'm organizing, I'm still, making sure that we connect with different resources and things like that. So it's mainly like you're doing it all already, regardless of what concentration that you fall under within the MSW program. You still can be able to branch off and do different things. And I remember when I was in the program in the career center, there was a list like on the wall of like what you can do with your MSW degree. So if you don't want to be a therapist, you could be a professor. You can be a case manager. You could be a lawyer. You can be um, someone's advocate. You could work at like a nursing home. You could work in a hospital. You could work in a school. You could do anything. Like I said in the beginning, social work is broad. It just depends on like what you want to do within yourself and how you want to make yourself known within the social work field. And what I noticed too, even though I've been in this field for 7 years now too, like with the one award that I had won, the Social Work Appreciation of Greatness Award, when I had noticed that there's other social workers within the city of Pittsburgh, and I learned about the different agencies and programs that they work for, I'm like, wow, there's more than just therapy. There's other people that's like doing other things outside of like the typical norm with a social work degree.
Okay, so it's pretty easy to say that with it being so broad, if somebody's even remotely thinking about even one area of social work, well, let's say they only know that you can be a case manager, for example, there are other things that you can do, whether it's having a caseload of clients that you work with, or you're doing a little bit more one-on work, therapy similar to what you do. So there's just a lot of things just within the field. It's not really limited to maybe just one aspect or maybe one representation of the field. So, for those who are really looking into that, you would recommend them to really take a look and see, okay, these are all the different things that you can do, within the field.
It's so broad, you could do so much. And like for example, even with me being a therapist, like I have just experienced for the first time last week, I guest lectured for a class through Zoom at UCF for the first time ever. And I actually enjoyed it. And it kind of led me to the thought. I'm like, well, shoot, social work is so broad. I could be a professor if I want to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good that you point out the fact that you can go into teaching. And from my understanding is that especially if you're looking to teach on an undergrad level, that you need to have at least one degree above that to
Right.
be qualified to, be able to get in that type of position. So especially if you like the fact of being able to spread that knowledge among others and really educate folks who are, trying to get into that field, especially with the different types of courses that you can, get into. I know that just with any field, when it comes to just anything that you're studying, that you have all those little specializations, so you can have that broad, super large lecture course, and then you can get into maybe some of the specifics based off of your experience. Maybe there's something within mental health therapy that an intro course into that type of specialization. So especially when it comes to teaching, if you really like to be able to spread that knowledge, and then you got a taste of that, being that guest lecturer, then again, that's, continues to open up, what you can do within that field. So I appreciate you talking about that. So when it comes to just, mental health, and specifically talking about the Black community that has had the stigma of, folks trying to reach out to get that type of help. It's always kind of been there. From my perspective, it looks like it has gotten a little bit better. But since you've been in the field for now, 7 or 8 years, compared to now, just, what that stigma, if that stigma still exists, what does that look like compared to 5 years ago within the Black community?
Okay, so I could say kind of like once I had graduated, I'll say like the stigma, I say the stigma is still there. And I do address it when I like speak at different events and such, that the stigma is there, because once someone says that they're going to therapy, or once someone says that they have a mental health diagnosis, people automatically think that they're crazy, which is not the case. And we have to keep addressing it addressing it all the time, even within the Black community. That doesn't mean that, okay, I'm going to therapy because I'm crazy, or I have a specific diagnosis because I'm crazy, or I have a problem. No, you just have that specific diagnosis, or you're going to therapy because you want to better yourself as an individual. We have to look at it as a strength-based aspect. So it's not like we got to, especially with Black men, if Black men go to therapy, that's like, oh, something wrong with you, or you don't know how to handle yourself. No, we're going to therapy because we want to be able to strengthen ourselves up so we can better ourselves, so we can better other people. And we don't want to carry that, that weight on our shoulders now. And also right now, I see that mental health, like people seeking mental health treatment is improving, and it's being spread out more, like on social media, even within professionals. Professionals are speaking up about it more, especially what we're going through right now in society with racism and financial issues, politics. It's opening up more. The stuff that we're experiencing is opening up more, and people are seeking out to it. I'll give you an example. Right now, I know someone that has his own organization here in Pittsburgh, and he had a worldwide press. He's been on the Today Show, had different interviews with NBC, different websites in Pittsburgh and worldwide. And recently, with the whole pandemic that happened, he was able to create a mental health fund, and he raised over like $100,000 just to provide services to individuals in need, especially to the Black community. So, for example, with the whole pandemic, had able to have that mental health fund, so people that lost insurance or don't have insurance to start with, they can go and receive treatment for free.
Yeah,
and it's still happening to this day. It's still happening, still going on right now. Because the pandemic still, we still don't know when it's going to stop and such, but the mental health fund is still going, and people are still using the resource to get the services and get what they need.
Absolutely. So, and, good to know that even from your perspective that it is getting better, and you can see that it's really getting spread wide. among the people, and glad to hear that people are, really understanding that this is a way for them to actually cope, as opposed to maybe, previous ways of thinking in terms of, maybe like manning up and
Yes.
taking other routes, that don't involve those professionals to really help you understand maybe what it is that you're actually going through. Maybe it's a little bit deeper than what you feel that it's, that you're experiencing. So I'm glad to see that, and would really, vouch for the fact that, those are healthy aspects, or healthy ways to actually get that help, not only for yourself, but also, for your family. So, definitely good to really see that.
And I want to bring this up too, as well, too, in terms of that aspect with the stigma piece. I think what stands out more too within that stigma piece, because we all of us been through a generational curse.
Mm-hmm.
Within growing up within families, if we have some like problems or something that we're going through, keep it in house. Don't tell nobody our business, stuff like that. So we got to break out that generational curse. Then also along with that lines too, if we feel as though if we want to share our emotions, we got to be able to be supportive of individuals that want to be able to open up and share their emotions. Because I would share a personal experience with them myself. Even though I've been in this field for 7 years, I went through my own personal situation myself. 2018 going into 2019, I suffered 3 seizures. In my sleep, didn't know what was going on, what was the cause of it. I ended up having to stay with my family in Philadelphia until I got well to come back to Pittsburgh. During that time of me going through, trying to, get myself back well and such, I was going through my own situations of emotions, anger, frustration, sadness. And I had a moment that I just had a meltdown.
Yeah.
And it was a meltdown where I just had to release my feelings and just cried out and talk to my mom, talk to my dad, talk to my grandfather, talk to my siblings. And it was like a breaking point, but also it was a breakthrough moment, because it lets me know still that even though I went through this situation personally, it lets me know that everybody can go through it. Even us professionals, we all can go through it. And once I had got myself back well, I went to therapy myself.
Yeah.
I've been to therapy 3 times on 3 different occasions. The first time I went to therapy was due to the fact that I was putting myself down on myself because I was failing this licensing exam, because I was trying to go for my social work license.
Yeah.
The second time I went to therapy was because I wanted to go for myself so I could be able to continue to be well after going through my seizures and going through my sickness. The third time I went to therapy was because I was trying to figure out a happy medium within myself with dealing with this pandemic. So I know that as a professional, I could say it's okay to go to therapy. It's okay to express your emotions, express your feelings, and it's okay to say that you need help.
Absolutely. Yeah. It sounds like that was a healthy release for you, because if that was something that was bottled up, or that you kind of kept to yourself and prevented yourself from, being able to seek that help, that could have gone, or it could have been released in other ways that might have affected yourself, might have affected other people negatively. So it's good to even hear that personal experience of, what you went through, the steps that you took, what was kind of going through your mind, before you actually sought that help. So it's good to, everybody's human, and everybody can really, relate to that. Even the folks who are, doing the work that are helping people get through those types of things. So, I appreciate you sharing that with us. So one of the things that, in terms of social work, at least from an outside perspective, is that the field, I guess from a general standpoint, somebody might want to be able to be that genuine person to help someone, or help, a case of people to really get through their issues, but they might be a little bit concerned about the actual, the pay, the salary, and things like that. So what type of advice would you give someone who's kind of thinking of those concerns in terms of, I really want to do this work, but, there may be a certain lifestyle I want to live. I'm not sure if this field would be able to really support that. So what type of advice would you give to someone in that? Were there things that you did personally to, financially put yourself in a position where you wouldn't have that concern?
Okay, so I would say off the gate, we already know that social workers, they don't get, good financial benefit and such. But the main thing that people need to really realize is what's the reason why you are in the field. If you feel as though the reason why you're in the field is because of the money aspect, you shouldn't even be in this field.
Mm-hmm.
Main important reason why you should be in the field is because you want to help and serve people, regardless of how much you're getting paid or regardless of the lifestyle that you want to live and such. If your heart is really into helping people, then this field is for you. When I talk about finance, and the reason why I bring that up too, because of the fact that I was working 2 jobs. Like I was working my full-time job and I was working a part-time job doing outpatient therapy in the evenings because I had wanted some extra money on the side and such. But once I realized what I went through within my health situation, I'm like, my health is more important than chasing a dollar.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I had to let go of my second job and just, still stay standing with my full-time job. And luckily within my full-time job, I was able to I was getting raises because the CEO at the time say, okay, y'all deserve more money because y'all doing more than the specific work that you're doing. So I was getting got raises and such. You want to be a therapist? What specific therapy do you want to do? Do you want to be a child therapist? Do you want to be an adult therapist? Do you want to be a drug and alcohol therapist? Do you want to be a sex therapist? Do you want to? It's, like I said, therapy is broad. You could do so much. Also figuring out what your long-term goal is when it comes to being in the field. So like myself, my long-term goal is I want to have my own practice. Mm-hmm. But I know what I have to do to get my own practice is I have to get 2 licenses. I have to get my LSW and I had to get my LCSW. Once I get those 2 licenses, then I could be able to plan out and say, hey, I want to open up my own practice. And most with licenses, when you get licensed, that does equal to more money in your pocket because you'll have connections with different insurance companies and such. So, for example, I have been working on this. I have been trying to get my license for a while, and I'm not giving up on it. I'm going to keep pushing and keep going on it. But I know once I get this license, I'll get connected with different, insurance companies within the city of Pittsburgh, where the agency I work for, the insurance company could hit me up and say, well, I want to refer you some clients and see if they could fit within your therapeutic classroom. Yeah. So that's a connection right there. Also with licenses, supervision comes into play too. So the agency, even though my agency right now, they already give me supervision already, but once I get my license, I won't have to worry about, I got to seek supervision for someone else and pay for supervision. No, I can get my supervision in-house because I'm already getting it already through my job. Mm-hmm. So it's basically just defining what you really like, what's your long-term goal and what you want to do. And that helps you determine where your heart is and where it also determines your financial gain and your financial goal. And I'll say right now, I'm not really worried about the finances. I'm just thankful to even be at a specific job and be in my field because the money's going to come. The money's going to come regardless. It's going to come. And whenever it's time for me to boost up, have my own practice, boost up and, go above and beyond, which I am going above and beyond. But once I get to the specific goal that I want to do, it's going to come. It's going to happen.
So yeah, I think you did a really good job in terms of explaining the balance that you need to have, between, making sure that you're evaluating what those long-term goals, if that actually meets, what you want to do financially, but most importantly, really figuring out if your heart's in the work. You get to a point where it doesn't feel like a job anytime, or any job can feel like a job at any point. But
right.
for the fact that that, okay, this part of the job, I'm not a super fan of it, but with everything else, all things considered, I love what I do, and I'm gonna, push through that tough part. So I'm really good that
Right.
you really explained that balance.
I'm glad that I went through my personal situation, because I know that self-care is important. So whenever I get off of work, I turn the computer off, don't deal with nothing work related, and just relax. Even during this pandemic, when I was furloughed from my job, I went to like different parks and just sat at parks and just relaxed. I'm a water person, so I love to be by water. So like if I go to a specific park that has water, I could just sit there all day and just relax and just be in nature. Talking to people like family, fraternity brothers, hanging out with friends, especially hanging out with friends that's in the same career field as you, just to be able to just have that networking aspect and such. And being able to rest, sleep. If you know your body's tired and such, listen to your body and sleep. Get the rest that you need. Drinking water, eating right, and just doing things that you love to do. That's all I can say. Just do the things that you love to do. That's going to keep you happy, and so that's going to keep you going.
So yeah, that was definitely a great explanation on, the types of things to really do to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because your body will tell you, when it's time to stop, whether it's just you yawning or just completely shutting down. You definitely don't want to get to that point. So definitely great points when it comes to just making sure that you're taking care of yourself, not only just for your job so that you're able to do those things, but for yourself, for your family and your friends as well. So Johnny, I really appreciate you joining me today, really giving your insight on the world of social work, the world of therapy and everything that really spans and expands, within that field. So like I said, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So thank you everybody for tuning in. If you want to, hit us up, we're on social media. You can check out our website. You can email us at inquirehire@gmail.com. Johnny, is there anything that you wanted to plug yourself? Did you want to tell the people how they can reach you? I'm going to give you the
Yeah.
floor so that you can do that.
Yeah. So people can reach out to me on Instagram. So Instagram, you can follow me on JG the Mastermind, and then also on LinkedIn, Johnnie Geathers, MSW. What I do, which I had actually started it during the pandemic, and I still kept it going, is every Friday I started doing videos, and I call it JG Mental Health Fridays. So what I do is I talk about different topics related to like mental health and social work, and I give out different coping exercises that anyone from a child to an older adult can do. And I plug them on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn so people can check it out and learn about different topics of what we face on a daily basis and how to handle it.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of good free information out there. So definitely follow Johnny on LinkedIn as well as Instagram. So again, thank you all for joining us. And until next time, peace to you and enjoy your day.